Put on a suit. Drink water. Don't drink and drive.
Game over!
Take it light. Okay.
Now you're more fluent.
Mackinac, he's got three!
Up, Bears.
So this is really good right here. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Welcome back. Texas Rangers with the boys. We are the boys, your daily Texas Rangers podcast by a couple of pro wrestlers who love Rangers baseball. Hey, we want to thank you for making us the first listen of your day. This is your boy Kev, a.k.a. YBK, Kevin Frazier. I haven't said it in a while, and I think we all need a quick reminder that your Texas Rangers are the 2023 World Series champs. We are still the defending champs. That banner stays in that stadium for good. So let's try to find some optimism today. We know it was a tough weekend, but Rangers upcoming have their own destiny in their hands, and they can really do something about it. So we'll talk about that upcoming big series against Houston coming up. We'll preview that. We'll talk about this Boston series that just kind of slipped away, and then we'll talk about some injury news with the Rangers. And we'll also talk about some cool awards that some of our Rangers are nominated for this year already. So before we get started, let me tell you about social media. Kevin Lee Frazier, that's Frazier. Texas Rangers Boys is TX Rangers WTB. You can check out our website, TexasRangersWithTheBoys.com.
All one word.
And you can check us out right here on YouTube. Just go and search Texas Rangers with the Boys, and you'll find us on the Sports Fluent Network. Click that subscribe button and check out our Made for Radio faces. Joining me as always, my co-host, the 300-pound manimal, a.k.a. Bull. How you doing, buddy? Where can they find you on the socials of the medias?
Well, I'm doing good. You know, you can find me on Twitter, Manimal Bull, Instagram, Manimal300, and both Facebook and TikTok at Bull Pro. At your own discretion. I don't really do much on there these days, but I'm trying. I always, I try. Facebook, right?
Yeah,
that's
cool.
the joke. That's the joke here.
We're finally getting Twitter or X is happening a little bit. Like we're getting stuff on X. It took like a year and a half.
Right. You just kind of like froze there in time.
I saw myself like turn like my screen blacked out. But anyway, we're getting a little traction on the X. But hey, look, nobody wants to hear us talk about what we do on social media. They want to hear us talk about the Texas Rangers. So
before we get started, Kev,
yes, don't bait me
I have to let everybody know October 18th at the Martin House Brewing Company in Fort Worth, Texas. It will be the 2-year anniversary show, 2YA, as they're calling it.
Oh,
because Martin House and Matt War Pro, when they team up together, it becomes a hipster fest, and it becomes beautiful, and I love it. So come on out Friday, October 18th at the beautiful Martin House Brewing Company venue for the 2-year anniversary show of Matt War Pro. I plan on being there as long as any kind of injury keeps me from it, but come on out. It's going to be a big time. We're having a good time out there. They're going to have food on site. Starry's Ice Cream will be there, and you can get all those brews you want right there at Martin House Brewing Company. So come on out for Matt War Pro's 2nd-year anniversary, 2-year anniversary. It's going to be a big time in Fort Worth, Texas. It's October 18th, and bell time will be somewhere around 8 p.m.
Man, October 18th. So the good part is that I think I'm willing and able to make that show. Finally, we got some shifts around in the schedule, and it's not on a 4th Friday, so we're going to most likely be there. I don't see why we wouldn't. So I'm pretty pumped about it. But look, we got all the bills paid, so let's get right into it. Rangers coming out of the weekend series, lose 2 of 3 against the Boston Red Sox. And that puts the Rangers 5.5 back. Now, Rangers get pretty lucky. Mariners and Houston really aren't playing that well in their own right. So 5.5 back is a gift.
Yeah, and the Mariners got a real break the other night in that game against Philadelphia in extra innings where old buddy got one right down the middle that was called a ball. And then the next one was a little bit up and walked in the tying run, but that game should have been over. The Phillies should have won that game the other night, and the Rangers really should be sitting 4.5 back. Did you see? And let's talk about this real quick. That next year in spring training, Major League Baseball is going to try out the robo ump that they've been running at AAA. And there is no doubt that if they would have went back and looked at that one, that was a dead miss. So, I mean, that a little bit of a break there for the Mariners. Yeah, so
bring it on the break. Bring it on. I know I'm not a traditionalist, but I'm also not like a uber progressivist. I just want what works. And something ain't working, you got to do something.
Well, and when you have the capabilities to see if that ball was sitting dead red in the strike zone, you gotta be able to take a look at that and make the right call and get the team that won the game the win. Yeah. And I mean, that's the difference right now between the Rangers. Now, let's be real honest. The Rangers could have won 2 games instead of 1, and they'd be sitting at 4.5 back regardless. But they did not do that. And they're sitting at 5.5, but it could have been, it could have been 4.5 as we talked this evening, because that was definitely a big time miss by the umpire on Saturday night.
Yeah, and we've seen it all year. And I also like the thing that they tried out in the futures game where you could challenge a pitch, and I think putting some.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's the one that you tap the helmet. The umpire looks at it. He gets a call back. Oh, that was a strike. All right, it's a strike.
That's gonna be easy, man.
Yeah, it was real quick.
Like we sit here, you and me, on our phones, like screenshotting, like back and forth. That one.
And I also saw that. I mean, they're going to the bottom edges of both sides are going to be a tad bit subjectable. So if it's borderline there, they may just go with the call that's on there. But because of height difference and the strike zone isn't defined in one certain spot, but if it's a ball that the whole thing is in the strike zone, they want to make sure they're getting the right call.
I like it. I think it's good because the umpires need a little bit more accountability, man. Let's
be real honest. I mean, umpires are not perfect human beings.
No,
they're not. I mean, they're just dudes that happen to have a job that is, high. I mean, like I've always given umpires. You know this. I've always, for the most part, tried to give umpires the benefit of the doubt.
You do. You really do. But I'll tell you this. I'll say this. And again, I've been watching baseball more intently over the last couple of years than I ever have. You can tell the difference between a good ump and a not so good ump. They definitely changed the way the game.
And a good umpire is if they are in a certain spot, they continue to call that all night long to make sure that, like, hey, I'm calling this tonight. If it's on that edge, like, I mean,
I'm just laughing because of some of the stuff I've seen.
The consistency. Yeah, I mean, you can't have one where you get that outside edge and then you throw that pitch the next time and you don't get that edge. It's not pitchers are wasted pitches trying to catch that edge because you called it a handful of times and then you stopped calling it. But consistency, I know that most players would just prefer, as long as they're consistent, it doesn't have to be 100% dead red in that strike zone. But we've talked way too much about strike zones.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to more Rangers news. So in Rangers news, Marcus Semien is named the Heart and Hustle nominee for the team. No shock there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a nominee or just award winner.
He might have won. He might have actually won it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's. I think everybody has one. I think they give one out to every team. So no surprise that it's Marcus Semien. I mean, dude plays hard every day. He plays every day. You got to damn near knock him out with a truck like Adolis Garcia did earlier in the year to get him even a day off. So a lot of respect for the way Marcus Semien plays the game and a lot of respect for his work ethic to get out there on the field every day and perform at the level that he does, at the all-star caliber that he is. And, I mean, he finishes out these 5 years strong with Texas and has a couple of more years where he's a really good player, we might be talking about Marcus Semien as an outside shot guy for the Hall of Fame.
Well, also let's jump into one other real positive thing about the Rangers before we start talking transactions, injuries, and so forth. So Tyler Mahle, who's we've been updating him almost every episode. Tyler Mahle gets the start. It looks like Tuesday versus Houston. Man, just in time.
Yeah, well, it almost kind of felt like the Rangers maybe traded Lorenzen, and then with John Gray going out, they didn't need to make that move. But I understand the move. I get it. They were looking towards having 4 years of or 5 years of control over what is it, Montgomery? Is that right? Is that the kid's name? No, it's not Montgomery. I said that earlier, and that's wrong. It's Pennington. Walt Pennington, yeah. So, the control, Lorenzen's not going to be back next year. You got to get something out of him or Gray, and he happens to be the one that's healthy. So, it is what it is. But it felt like, man, we could have used one more start there this weekend from Lorenzen, but that wasn't the way it was to be. What were we talking about?
We were just talking about Mahle and
Tyler Mahle. Yeah. So anyways, Tyler Mahle is a big important part of what the Texas Rangers are doing in the next 2 months of this season, and him being ready, him being having a couple of outings and finally seeing him get some depth his last time at Round Rock and working deep into a game. It's exciting to see him back. I'm probably sure they'll pair him with maybe Dane Dunning or something like that to make sure he has adequate depth if he doesn't get deep in the game, because he's probably going to be on a 75 to 80 pitch count. But we'll just see what Bruce Bochy and the crew do with him, because, it's not like it's Rocker, who's a young guy that they're really slow rolling coming back from Frisco. Mahle's 30 years old, 32 years old, something like that. He knows his arm a little bit more, and they're not as concerned about him being, not healthy in the future like they are with Rocker. Not quite the fireballer that Rocker is, but he has got real major league off-speed stuff and breaking stuff. It's real. I mean, it's good, and I'm looking forward to it. The last time out with Frisco or with Round Rock, I thought that was his best stuff. It looked like he was pretty ready to pitch in the big leagues.
Yeah, and I think you could tell his stuff was working, because most of those guys didn't stand a chance against him.
Yeah, especially when he got ahead in the counts. You know how we've talked about it so many times of guys not putting people away when they get ahead in the counts. Mahle is a guy that most of his breaking stuff starts in the strike zone and then dips late. The slider is really late. It's a strike. Oh, like that kind of like late, So I'm excited to see him pitch. I mean, don't expect him to go out there and throw 8 or 9 innings on Tuesday, but if he can get 4 or 5 innings and keep the Rangers close and get them to a point where they can use either Bradford or Dunning behind him, they're in a good way. Awesome. Tuesday would be Dunning or Bradford's like bullpen type day, so he would probably be available by Tuesday.
Okay, well let's get into some roster moves. So Max Scherzer and Jacob Latz both to the IL. The move for Scherzer was Pennington. The move for Latz was Burke. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about Burke, who's, maybe the location wasn't there, but really plus for velocity there. And hate to see Latz have some struggles. I think he's going to be a major leaguer. He's doing really good in his first season.
Yeah, and they don't seem to be too overly concerned with it being forearm troubles. They don't seem to think that it's a Tommy John related injury. They think it's more of just he's thrown a little bit more than he probably has in 2 or 3 years. Bruce Bochy has asked a lot out of a rookie. I mean, let's be honest, he's been in the back end of this bullpen most of the year, and for most portions of the season, he has performed. Now, he's had moments where he's struggled, and, like lately he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been bad either. And if he's, working a little bit sore, working a little bit hurt, you want him to get right. and get himself back into a position to where he can pitch for this thing before the end of the season and, have a strong showing to go into 2025, strong.
Yeah. So let's also talk about
or contribute to a playoff push. One of the two. Yeah, I mean, let's not take that out of contention either.
The optimism is what I love to hear. So
I mean, hey, I'll never forget in 2011 the St. Louis Cardinals were 9.5, 8.5 out of the wild card, and won the World Series from 8.5 back at September 1st. And I remember distinctly because I wanted them to put Lance Berkman on waivers so the Rangers could go out and make a little trade back whenever they used to have the waiver wire deals. Mm-hmm. And have that bat going into September in 2011. Could you imagine Berkman in that lineup? And so that's how I remember that St. Louis came back all the way, ended up winning the World Series from 8.5 or 9.5 back on September 1st. And the Rangers are kind of similar to that team because they have veteran pitchers that are really solid, and they have guys in the lineup that can really do it whenever they get hot.
Yeah, actually, it's a great point. And the Rangers do have a lot going on that will make this team still really must-see baseball down the stretch this year. Jonathan Hernandez, man.
I was going to say real quick with Max Scherzer before we get off the topic. Max Scherzer was saying the other day after his start that he felt like he was really close to being back, and then, a little bit of soreness. So I don't think it's going to be much more than 15 days for Scherzer.
So we talked about, I just was bringing up Jonathan Hernandez. This one's just going to be one of those that just feels like it's going to hurt.
Is it going to hurt when he's killing us in September when we're playing the Mariners and we need those wins and he's the guy getting the outs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because we got 2 series against Seattle down the stretch, and I would not doubt that Jonathan Hernandez will play some kind of role. Because
he doesn't have options, so that means he's going right into their bullpen.
And why not? I mean, he throws 99 or 98.
I agree, yes.
Crazy cut fastball. So, I mean, if he can get it together, he's going to be a great bullpen piece for anybody. And,
Seattle suits him for being such a big ballpark that can hold it in.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like it's going to be good for him. And again, so let me real quick before we start talking about these box scores, let me tell you real quick about Down on the Farm with the Boys, our exclusive content. It's where we cover all things Rangers minor league. Now, we just got our most recent episode in the bag, as we always do for these.
Oh, it's up. By the time anybody sees this, it's up.
It's already up. And what this is, we've got our top 40 prospects. And this was fun, man. Like the 40 through 31, you're going to hear some names in here that and you're definitely going to hear some names you don't know. And there was a lot to get excited about. I mean, really and truly, there is a lot of good things going on in the organization, and it's funny because even the prospects that are struggling have such a ceiling that if they can turn it around, even in a half a season or in a season, could be big contributors at the major league level for the Texas Rangers. So go to our website, TexasRangersWithTheBoys.com.
All one word.
Or you can check it out on Spotify. It's just $1.99 a month. Make us your one-stop shop for all things Rangers. Organization-wide, go check it out. Down on the Farm with the Boys.
You want to, real quick before we get into these box scores, you want a quick Rangers-related farm news?
What you got?
Saturday night, Mark Church throws 29 pitches in Hickory.
He did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that means he's 29 pitches is a lot of pitches.
Yeah. Not a ton of stress pitches or whatever because he was rolling, but overall good stuff getting Mark Church back and ready to help the team
we
out.
wanted to see him this year, like in our.
I wanted to see him last year.
yeah, actually you did, but this year, like we wanted to see him in the bullpen this year. So
I was hoping he would break camp with the big club, but he's struggled a little bit. He's been hurt. He's been out for about 90 days up until that rehab outing with Hickory Saturday night.
well, that's great news, though. That means that the Rangers do have the potential for another bullpen arm that could help this thing down the stretch.
100% agreed.
Let's talk about this Boston series. I know it's not going to be fun. We do have some highlights, and we definitely have some lowlights.
Well, I thought the biggest key to Friday night was the Rangers couldn't get a shutdown inning from Jose Urena. They scored a run for him in the bottom of the first. He came back out, gave up 2. They got those couple back and put themselves back in the lead, and Urena gives up 4 that next inning. Gets run by the 5th, and the bullpen wasn't exactly great either. Leclerc wasn't very good behind Urena. Latz wasn't very good, but now we're kind of finding out that he was hurt. So, and then Dunning, not bad. And then Chafin's first appearance with the Rangers, not his best stuff, obviously. He did have 3 strikeouts, though, but he gave up a couple of runs. But really, honestly, with him, I think he was kind of put in a position that he doesn't really work in very often, where he's asked to go out there and keep them close enough or within striking distance. He's more effective. Like most closers, when they go in there with a 5-run lead, all of a sudden the bases are loaded and then they, hunker down there and, give up 1 run out of that whole thing. Bases loaded, nobody out, and the team gets 1 run off of it, So I think that's kind of the pitcher that Chafin is. Me and Mike were talking about that earlier, about how he probably is one of those guys, but he definitely has the demeanor of what we like in Texas. So he's going to fit in just fine here, and we'll talk about him more as the weekend goes along. But the Rangers, they had some double plays turned behind the pitching. They had a big outfield assist from Ezekiel Duran from right field. What an arm! Zeke might have a better arm than Adalis.
Well, it's like 95 miles an hour from out there.
Yeah, and that ball was kind of not that well placed and still had plenty of time to make the tag and get the out.
Yeah. It
wasn't like he just set it on the bag. That's why they got the out. Like he had the ball passed him while he was sliding, and he still had time to get the tag down. But the Rangers hit a little bit. They had some extra base hits. They had a couple of home runs from Corey Seager. Tavares had a home run. Simeon had a home run. Carson Kelly had a double. So they had some extra base hits. They scored some runs. They just didn't get the pitching that they'd gotten all year from Urena on Friday night, and they just weren't able to get to that Red Sox bullpen enough to get themselves within striking distance. And then once it got to 11 from 9, you kind of felt like it was probably in the bag there for the Red Sox. And it was. And, you did see some good things, though. You saw, Seager is on a home run barrage that we haven't seen since the last time he did it. I don't know, when was that? Like at the end of the Astros beginning of the World Series run. And, you're just kind of starting to see it a little bit, that they're starting to hit the ball a little bit better. But, just not enough pitching on Friday night to get a win against the Red Sox. And credit the Red Sox, man. That Rafael Devers dude is a fun guy to watch at the plate. He hits the ball hard every time, no matter where it is. Even when he makes outs, they're rockets all over the field. And Saturday night, did you see that play he made on the Corey Seager ball that he hit back towards the hole where he was playing short?
Like
that was a tremendous. That was a great play. He's a good player to watch, or he's a good player to for the Red Sox up there. They got a handful of them. They've got some good. That Duran kid is fun to watch. They got Yoshida and Paul O'Neill's nephew is playing for them.
The guy on their team that I really like a lot, that is probably a year or two away from being on everybody's radar as far as like everybody in the knowing who he is that Rafaela.
Oh yeah,
He can play. He can do anything. Like he can darn near do anything on the field. Like he's as
and he can play short and second, and he runs well.
Put him in center field. Like he can do darn near anything.
And I like Wong behind the plate. I think he's a good catcher. They got to Cutter Crawford a little bit. That was definitely not one of Cutter Crawford's better outings recently, but they just couldn't get enough. That bullpen held the door for Boston and held the lead there at the end. And the Rangers bullpen just couldn't do enough. They could have went without those last runs. They could have went without those Chafin runs. But, Friday is kind of a tough luck because they scored some runs. They scored 6 runs on a night where most nights they would win when they score 6 runs. So
and also, though, remember the Rangers have not been bad at getting a lot of base runners this year. They've been bad at doing something like hitting homers and getting slugged when they got guys on base. A night where they finally get some guys on base, all the where they hit 5 homers?
4 home runs, yeah.
3 solo jobs. And it's like, dang, it's like, man, it's like can't get it together,
and giving up a couple of 3-run jobs in the process doesn't help either.
It's been the 3-run home runs for the Rangers, man.
Yeah, and they just haven't been there, and it seems like almost every night they get one against them.
They do. It's like the 3-run homers are just few and far between.
So Cutter Crawford with the win, he pushes his record to 7-8 with a 3.81 ERA, and then Jose Urena takes the loss. He falls to 3-6 with a 3.70 ERA. So that really tells you how good Jose Urena has been this year, where he had a really down outing where he gives up 6 runs, 7 runs, something like that, and he's still well under 4 with his ERA.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great story about Urena. And I think you'll probably get at least one other crack at the starting rotation. Let's move on to Saturday. So Saturday was my nephew's birthday party. Big shout out to Xander and my sister Cassandra, who also she listens to the show and watches the show and is a big Rangers fan. And so we went over there for the birthday party, and then we were like watching. We had the game on, watching the Rangers, and so thank goodness the Rangers decide they're going to win on the birthday night to add a little extra juice to the night, make things a little something, give us something besides the birthday to celebrate. That game to me started out a little shaky with Bradford. I just don't think Bradford's like sharp yet. He just hasn't seemed to have the location that you need from him.
I agree.
If he doesn't have that, like that's his bread and butter. It's got to be. But
not truly awful either for Bradford. I didn't think he was terrible. I thought it could have been worse. But he wasn't terrible. 5 strikeouts really kind of bailed him out. He was that changeup had some good dip to it, but he wasn't able to really get the fastball by anybody. So he gave up the couple home runs to Refsnyder. And that guy, former Ranger great. Yeah, former Ranger great. What, he played like 13 games here or something like that? Something ridiculous. He was on that 2020 team when they were just so bad. I mean, Derek Dietrich also played on that team too. So that's not. But
with the spray tan.
But oh yeah, and chains, and like if they'd have let him cut his jersey sleeves off, he'd have done it for sure. But Refsnyder's hung around in the big leagues. He's played in Boston, New York.
Because he can hit. It's because he can hit.
Yeah, and he plays good enough, and no one has expectations for him to be that great. So as long as he's good and pretty decent, and he always seems to be, although he had a career night Saturday night. He had 2 home runs, a double, and a single. So he was a triple away from the cycle. He had 3 RBIs, something like that. So a really nice night for Rob Refsnyder. Too bad he never did anything like that in the ballpark whenever he was here. But Bradford overall where he's at, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. Leclerc was shaky as hell, but got a big strikeout to get himself to Chafin, who, Chafin was really nasty on Saturday night. And then Robert Spores did have a little hiccup. I thought they tried to ask a little bit that second inning. I don't know. I mean, probably not, but just the one run in a game where you've got 4, so it's not like it's the end of the world. And then going to Robertson late in the 7th, getting an out with Robertson or 2 outs with Robertson in the 7th, and then Yates needing to get an extra out in the 8th. But those guys pull it through. Not their best stuff, but also not bad at all either. And the Rangers, I mean, when they can kind of get to that bullpen right there where you're seeing Chafin, Spores, Robertson, and Yates all together, I like that combo, and I like to see I'd like to see that happen more often because I feel a lot more confident about Rangers winning ball games.
Well, also having that lefty in there to give you kind of some strategic advantages, depending on who you're going to be facing in whoever's lineup. Real quick on Rob Refsnyder, because I just had to bring it up. So I was like, man, I feel like he's been really good since he's been in Boston. Other than that, he's kind of just been who? But in Boston, listen to this. Over the last 3 years, he's slashing 288, 382, and a 435 for 818 on base plus slug for Boston.
Yeah, so, you don't think of him as that kind of guy, but that's borderline all-star.
We're talking 3 years, though. This isn't like
over the course of the
year.
That isn't a small sample size. That's definitely a real sample size. So, yeah, but he's a good player. He had a career night there on Saturday night, and I rib about it because he wasn't good with Texas.
No, he wasn't.
There's a real reason why a guy like him stays on 40-man rosters, though, for sure.
Yeah, they see that potential in him. Jonah Heim, I thought got a kind of home run that he really kind of needed. I feel like every time he has a big moment, it's like, oh, he really needed that, because it's like he just kind of disappears in between big moments.
Yeah, he hasn't been very good at all this year, and so to see him get a couple of hits yesterday, drive in some runs, and really help contribute to the team, it's a big deal. Because you want to get him right. I mean, if he has a good solid 2 months, you can forget about the fact that he was the worst catcher as far as creating runs for the league. I mean, you can forget about that, and you can start talking about, hey, but that last 2 months, he really put this thing on helped this thing carry their weight into the playoffs. So, I mean, it's definitely possible, but at the same time, I mean, we talked about Heim the other day when we answered questions, so we won't get into it too much. But He's got a lot on his plate right now, and catching baseball games is hard when your head's right, and if your head's not right, it makes it even harder.
Yeah, and then also too, Josh Smith kind of breaks out of a little mini slump that he had going there with 3 hits. Good to see that. Rangers make us feel good on a Saturday night, make us think, have us kind of optimistic going into that Sunday game, and then
the rubber game. Yeah, well, let's clean it real quick. Jose Leclerc gets the win. He's 5-4 with a 4.08 ERA. They got the Tanner Houck, who's been really good for the Red Sox this year. He's 8-8 with a 3.09 ERA. That also says a little bit about him, because I think he gave up all 7 of those runs, and the ERA just pushes over 3. So he's been real good. Yates gets to 20 saves for the season. ERA falls to 1.13 after a 2-inning or a multiple inning save where he gets 4 outs.
Man, what a beast. All right, cool.
100%.
Let's wrap up this weekend. Sunday, it just was, it's one of those games where I just kind of knew. I don't know how I know it, but there's something about this team when I'm like, I can just tell. I don't know how to tell you that I know, but I was like, man, here we go.
Well, it probably didn't help that in the first inning there, you're watching Nathan Eovaldi throws 25, 26 pitches to have a clean inning. And, the Rangers score a couple of times there early. Seager hits a home run. Young hits a home run. Yeah, you get a couple of home runs right there. You're feeling good about things. But, then the offense really turned off there. They just had one more hit for the rest of the game. That was a Josh Young double down into the left field corner. They only had a couple of walks, so they didn't have a whole lot of base runners, just one walk. So, I mean, not a ton of base runners today for the Rangers. They did have the 2 home runs. And, one of those outings from Nate Eovaldi where he didn't have his best stuff today, but he battled and gave him some innings. Probably shouldn't have sent him back out there for the 6th inning. But, if he goes out there and has a clean one and gets you 6 innings on a day where you really need bullpen rest, it would have been a good thing. But it didn't happen that way. Big Walt Pennington making his debut for the Rangers. I mean, I know he only gives up 1 earned, but that 1 earned puts 2 more on Eovaldi. He walks 3 behind that, walks the bases loaded behind that, and finally able to make 1 good pitch and get a fly ball to Tavares to get out of that inning. Burke did give up the 1 home run, but his stuff looked pretty good in his inning in 2/3. I thought his velocity was pretty good. He was sitting 95. We saw 98. Now it was also 20 feet up the screen, but you were seeing good velocity from Brock Burke, and hopefully that can keep up. And you still got some optionable years with him, and see what happens with him down the stretch here, and see if he can kind of turn things around. And then Gerson Garabito's the type of guy that may just stick on this roster for the whole season, because he's been pretty good for this thing, and the opportunity.
That guy's got movement, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and the opportunities that he's been given.
He knows how to place, he can place it. He knows where his ball is going to move to. So he's not just kind of up there, because sometimes Jonathan Hernandez is probably a great example of it's almost like he didn't know what his pitches were going to do sometimes. And same thing we talked about Owen White. I feel like I've seen the same thing with him. Garabito seems like he kind of knows what his stuff's going to do.
Well, he attacks the strike zone, man. That's important. That's really important in big league baseball, is to attack the strike zone, because most of the time your stuff is better than their bat.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
So, even a guy like Gerson Garabito understands that his stuff is better than their bat. And if they get him, they get him. He's in the game in a 7-2 ball game in the 8th and 9th inning.
Yeah.
If they get him, they get him.
Right.
And if he gets got, it ain't like Bruce Bochy's coming to him and what are you doing? What are you doing? They're saying, hey, good work today attacking the strike zone. I know one guy got, whatever the case may be, but they're like, thanks for attacking the strike zone in a game where we're getting blown out and we need to get in and out of this thing and not use any more bullpen hands than we have to. So to get 3 innings out of Burke and Garabito is a pretty nice thing. And, Pennington, I think they would have probably liked to have gotten more out of Pennington today. But once he got to a point where he'd thrown 30 pitches in that 1 inning, I think he threw 33. There was no way they were going to send him back out for a 2nd inning on that. And, Burke and Garabito, okay down the stretch. I mean, 4 strikeouts in 2 innings or 4 strikeouts in 3 innings. And you saw some good velocity from Brock Burke. And outside of the home run that he gave up, I mean, he hit 1 bat, but other than that, everything else was pretty decent. It's probably the best we've seen Brock Burke this season.
Yeah. Also, just one more quick note on Garabito. I mean, he sits around 94.
Yeah.
So he's not like 89, 91. He's got a little bit of juice. Okay. So let's go ahead and
let's clean it up here real quick. Yeah. Cam Boozer gets the win. He's 2-2 with a 2.65 ERA, and Nate Eovaldi, he drops his 5th game to fall 8-5 with a 3.62 ERA. He'll probably get the ball next week against New York on Friday, probably. Maybe Saturday with an off day, but the Rangers are going to probably finagle their rotation around to work their way into not having to use either a minor league guy or their bullpen.
Right. All right, man. Well, I think that's a wrap for the day. We
got to let everybody know real quick. Tomorrow, the Rangers they're hosting the Astros. Space City coming to DFW, and there's it's getting to a point where this is a must-win series. I don't know if this is a must-win game, but they need to take a couple of games from the Astros here, just like they did right before the break. And the Rangers will be sending Andrew Heaney to the hill. He's 4-11, 4.12 ERA. He's had a couple of rough outings his last couple of goes, but he's been good at certain points, and he's just one of those polarizing players in the Rangers team that when he's good, but when he's bad, you don't want to look at him.
Yeah.
And then he'll be facing Hunter Brown. He's 9-7 with a 4.11 ERA. So when you think about it, 4.11, 4.12, this should be a pretty good matchup. And Brown's had some decent outings against the Rangers, and they've gotten to him a little bit this year. So we'll see what happens. But always exciting when it's the silver boot time, and hopefully, Seager and the offense can keep the hot streak up that they had going with Boston over the weekend. I know it's settled down a little bit on Sunday, but let's see if they can't get a couple here from Houston and then work their way back closer to first place here in the American League West.
Yeah, and Hunter Brown has had in July had a couple of really rough starts, rough outings. His most recent start was not that great. So maybe the Rangers catching him at the right time, maybe with the power that we've seen from this team over the last 3 games kind of starting to resurface. Maybe we can get a little home cooking here and see some positive outcomes. And Rangers really have their own destiny in their hands here to really make their own move in their own division here by doing what they got to do against Houston. Thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been a blast on a Monday. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll do our normal thing. Tomorrow we'll have a box score to talk about and whatever moves the Rangers make, and we'll probably have some Jacob deGrom stuff to talk about or whatnot. So just look for us tomorrow. We'll be back again. Don't forget to check us out on social media, TX Rangers WTB. Don't forget to check out that website, TexasRangersWithTheBoys.com.
All one word.
And there you can also subscribe to our exclusive content, Down on the Farm with the Boys, where we cover all things Rangers, minor league. Go make us your one-stop shop for all things Rangers, organization-wide. Big shout-out to our farm hands. We appreciate you guys. You're going to get an awesome next few episodes over the next 4 weeks with the top 40 prospects list, and we're excited. We
also talked some Kumar Rocker on the.
Oh my gosh, man! Yeah. We went knee deep in some Kumar Rocker talk. We even kind of got into the box score a little bit on it. So yeah, lot of good stuff going on the farm right now. Kumar Rocker is about as electric probably as any prospect in the game right now, and it's not going to be long before we're talking national news with this guy. So go check it out. Won't regret it. Thank you again for checking us out here on the Sports Fluent Network on YouTube. Just go to that little search thing and type in Texas Rangers with the Boys, and we'll pop up. Hit that subscribe button. You can see our made for radio faces. Thanks again for everyone that tunes in. For the 300-pound manimal, this is your boy Kev. We are Texas Rangers with the Boys. We're signing out.